I was going to ask you something a little bit more that I've been thinking about recently, with respect to like the responsibility of media and the work that we put out, and how we seem to be going down an interesting path as far as the things that we produce, both in like in the news and also just in films and television shows and things like that, where they seem to be becoming less and less responsible, or less and less moral, or less and less consistent. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you work in a commercialized field where it seems like that's what the audience wants and that's what people are feeding the audience? How do you work in a commercialized field, make the impact that you want to make, and yet still have it be something viable? Is that possible even? Like,
well, it's a system. And it's interesting. It's the problem in politics. It's the problem in, to some degree, justice, in media, and also in what you might call the acting field. And when I talk about media, in this case, I'm talking about reporting media and acting media.
right.
You know, you can make a great movie that grosses a lot of dollars if you give the public what they want to hear.
Right.
And what they want to hear does not necessarily make them happy. Sometimes they want to hear a tragedy. Sometimes they want to hear something that bothers them. Sometimes they don't want to hear something that bothers them. But if you give them the right thing at the right time, you can make a lot of money. That is reflective of society. That's acting media, movie media, when it reflects society's wants. And in a very mild sense helps form them, but it actually more helps solidify them. Then you have the sort of more progressive things that lead society, that change their views. The problem right now with society is is not self-reflective. Because we don't have a strong community structure, a strong national structure, and down to the strong family structure and individual structure, these things are not reflective of really a specific type of morality. You question most people, and in some of our educational programs, you know, one of the modules is good and bad. And a lot of people say, oh, this is good, this is bad, but they don't have a real definition for it. And when they're put to the task, suddenly they realize, well, the reason why I think it's good is because I thought it was good, and because I thought it was good, I thought it was good, and I was told it was good, and I thought it was good. But is it good? I'm not sure it's good. And if I'd heard that from someone else, I might have been told it was bad and thought it was bad and believed it was bad. And we find that we have this programming and has nothing much to do with our experience in life other than it has been dictated to us. Society in itself, if it continues the way it's going, will end up where it's headed, as they say. And it's sort of almost as if we're along for the ride.
Yeah.
But humans have the capacity to actually sit and think about where we want it to be, think about how we would like it to change. And that contemplation has to be something that becomes understood in society. That people understand it, families understand it, communities understand it, and that the different ethical issues that come up are discussed. I believe, and I believe this for a while, that's why we have a specific ethicist curriculum. I think that being an ethicist will be as much of a foundation to society as being a business person. That in communities and even in families, there will be people who are ethicists and ethical minded that help guide that. Now, right now, that doesn't exist so much. So when you go into the movie industry, you have a problem because you see, especially someone like yourself now who's thought about these things quite a bit, and you were expressing to me earlier about I think it's a TV opportunity, is it? Or something along those lines? And when you examine it, you see that it actually supports something that you find not so good in society, innocent in itself, but supporting something that's not good.
Right.
And your ethical consideration is, what will it do if I contribute to it? And what will it do if I don't contribute to it? What will it do for society? What will it do for me? All of these different things. Back and forth it goes. That sort of consideration is very important. Unfortunately, if more and more actors did that, there would be more and more poorer actors because a lot of actors would not stomach what they were actually doing. Because the industry right now is in a place where it's reflecting society's values, and society's values are somewhat haphazardly put together.
Right.
It's the same reason why you can have someone who, and I say this, no, I love rock, I play, keyboards and synthesizer, but I do know that someone who plays around with, some sort of instruments and makes a pop song, sometimes it's really rough, not even particularly musical in a number of ways, but hits a type of emotional fancy, can make more money with that song than a classical musician who trains for 40 years, who is far, what you might say, far more well-trained, and even represents something that's far lasting, Yeah. A lot of rock music or contemporary music, popular music, 100 years from now won't stand the test of time. Some will, but a lot won't. But we do have classical pieces that have withstood the test of more than 100 years,
right.
Hundreds of years. And they will probably be around 100 years from now, but yet people are not paid the same way.
Right.
Payment reflects society's values.
Right.
In, a long time ago, there was quite a bit of payment for being a gladiator and going out in an arena and slaying people who were brought in front of you, or maybe being eaten by lions or things like that. Yeah. Not that the people get paid who are eating lions, but people pay to see that happen. Now that would be appalling, although some people say that there are some, whether it's bullfighting or whatever, that's similar to that.
Right.
But certainly things like bullfighting, boxing, football have some very primitive aspects to them.
Right.
And maybe in 100 years from now, when we're beyond that, those sports will be seen as we see gladiator fights and people being tortured now. Society's values change, and what people are willing to pay for change. And what people are willing to pay for is reflective of their current value set. But if you want to be involved in transforming people, educating people, moving them forward, unless people are aware of they're paying money for where they are at as opposed to where they want to be, you'll become less viable commercially. So it's an interesting problem. If people were educated and if the industry were educated, not only would the film industry be extremely transformational, it'd be a wonderful educational tool, but people would go forth willingly to do that. As they go forth to a health club, people now recognize that we don't get enough exercise. Long ago, when we had to plant all our food and go in the jungle and hunt, we didn't have to worry about going to health clubs. We got enough exercise. But now we don't. So we go to health clubs. And we love it. Some of us don't, but we love it. When we start to have a certain type of media that is more responsible, then that will be supported as health clubs are.